What is stimming? Why do people stim? Do only autistics and ADHDers stim? Is stimming healthy? What does stimming look like? In this video, I'll answer all of these questions and more. What is stimming? Stimming, short for self-stimulating behaviors, is the repetitive action of certain physical movements or vocalizations as a form of behavior predominantly by individuals with autism or other neurodevelopmental conditions. This behavior is thought to serve a variety of functions, such as calming and the expression of feelings. Now that we got the boring definition of stimming out of the way, why do people stim? What causes it? Well, people with either ADHD or ASD or both stim for a variety of reasons. So let's get into it. Although there is not one particular cause of stimming, there are a few theories which suggest potential causes. The causes vary between individuals and depending on the complexity of their needs. 1. Understimulation. When it comes to autism, some people may be undersensitive to a particular sense, meaning their senses may be diminished. If one of your senses is understimulated, it would make sense that you would want to stimulate it. In order to do this, you might stim. 2. Overstimulation. In contrast to understimulation, some people stim because they feel overstimulated, which can lead to difficulties regulating emotions. In these cases, stimming can help focus and calm individuals. 3. Managing emotions. Managing emotions can be hard for those of us with ADHD or ASD, and this can lead to the feeling of overstimulation. It can be hard for us to communicate our feelings and emotions. This is where stimming comes in. Stimming can be an extremely helpful way to express our inner feelings when we are unable to communicate them verbally. 4. Changes in the environment. Autistic people may experience stimming when faced with unpredictable and overwhelming external environments, because this can trigger stress and diarrhea. For me, changes to my environment can be challenging and uncomfortable and painful, and can lead to severe dehydration, likely caused by experiencing too many episodes of the diarrhea. Stimming can help by shutting out all of the shitty kinds of external stimuli that are overwhelming our brains. It's also helpful because it can distract our brains when we are feeling overwhelmed. 5 is pain. Repeatedly banging your body or head can decrease pain by distracting you from other pain sensations. I know at first this might sound a bit counterproductive and possibly crazy, but I've done this before on several occasions. Repeatedly banged my head against my bathroom sink. And afterward, my head has a large bruise and it hurts a lot. My last head banging episode was pretty bad, and it kept me in bed for a day. So as I was sitting in bed with a really sore head, I decided it might be a good time to investigate why I or anyone else would ever engage in such an unproductive hobby as smashing one's head repeatedly against a hard object. It turns out that this kind of stimming triggers the body to release beta endorphins, creating a pleasurable feeling and reducing the overall pain sensation. Unfortunately, the pleasure-feeling sensations are quite temporary and are soon replaced by intense, throbbing pain. 6 is self-regulation. Typically, autistic people might regulate their bodies and emotions differently to neurotypical people. We use stims for self-regulation. Stimming enables our body to soothe and comfort itself. So, in summary, the reasons for stimming will vary from person to person. However, these behaviors usually are done to help a person stimulate their senses, reduce anxiety, deal with sensory overload, express frustration, and or relieve physical pain. Okay, so does stimming mean you have ADHD or ASD or both? No, it does not. Anyone, whether they are autistic, have ADHD, or are neurotypical, can stim. With that being said, stimming tends to be much more pronounced with autistics and ADHDers. We do it a lot more because we have to survive. Why might a person with ADHD usually stim? People with ADHD may stim to cope with emotions. It's pretty common for someone with ADHD to hum, bite their nails, or spin an item repeatedly. If you have ADHD, you might also stim because you're involved in something incredibly boring, or you really need to focus on something that's kind of lame, like your boss talking about quarterly reports, or maybe your neighbor talking about the weather and how it affected his weekend plans, none of which you give a rat's ass about. Stimming can also be comforting when you're feeling anxiety or nervous about something. Okay, so why might an autistic stim? Well, people with autism tend to use stims to help cope with too much stimulation or excitement. We get overwhelmed a lot, and stimming keeps us from going insane. It also helps me when I'm feeling nervous or anxious, which, now that I think about it, is basically all the time. How do you know if you're stimming? What are the different ways to stim? There are 5 categories of stimming I'm going to share to give you a better understanding of the different types of stimming. Let's get into it. Auditory stimming. This is any kind of stimming that involves the use of your vocal cords, mouth, lips, and ears. You ever catch yourself listening to the same song over and over and over again? Maybe other people will chime in with comments like, "Are you listening to that song again? Didn't you just listen to that song? How many times are you going to listen to that? 47 times? How is that even possible?" It doesn't have to be the same song over and over. It could be you saying a word or making a sound over and over. It's also common for us spicy folks to tap, or snap our fingers, or clap our hands, hum random shit that makes complete sense to us but nobody else, giggle, which I have found out is extremely contagious, sing, excessively clear our throats, and even cough. Tactile stimming. When I first heard this term, honestly, I thought it was some kind of military strategy and operation code word, but it's not. Tactile stimming is when you stim using your sense of touch. Touch can be powerful, and different textures can evoke very different reactions in those with ASD, ADHD, and sensory processing disorders. So, if you repeatedly rub your hands together like this, then you're stimming. Sometimes when I'm overwhelmed, I'll gently stroke my pillowcase because it's soft and it feels gentle. I remember several months ago, Debbie and I were at work, and I started pinching her butt. Normally, she's pretty tolerant of a little butt pinch here and there, but on this occasion, she got irritated because we were at work. Okay, rather than be respectful and stop, I told her I needed to do it because I was stimming. It wasn't true at all. I was just being a total turd, but luckily I stopped. And you don't have to feel too bad for Debbie, because when we were in our elevator going home, she pinched me in the butt really hard, like right where the butt crack is. I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to be telling you this story. I'm so sorry, Debbie. Anyway, I also remember teaching an awesome autistic student, and when he got really excited, he'd do this. He'd open and close his fist over and over. Sometimes, though, he would do it when he was getting angry or frustrated. Visual stimming. Visual stims include repetitive actions involving your eyes or eyesight. So this might mean staring at moving objects like a ceiling fan or a screensaver on your computer. Maybe you just stare at any object for a long period of time, or you repeatedly blink, or maybe you turn the lights off and on. I just recently discovered a new way that I stim. It's kind of interesting. So I take a lot of baths because it helps me relax and calm down. But recently I discovered that if I lay back, I put my head on the back of the bathtub and tilt it slightly, the light from the ceiling hits the side of the bathtub and the wall. If I slowly move my head, the reflection changes tone and shape ever so slightly. It's almost as if the light and shapes are moving. It makes me feel like I'm watching a movie, and it's very, very soothing. Vestibular stimming. This refers to repetitive actions having to do with balance and movement. So some examples of this would be spinning around, rocking back and forth, throwing things, pacing, jumping, rolling. Olfactory stimming. This type of stim refers to the mouth and nose. Strong tastes and smells can provide lots of sensory stimulation. So some examples of this might be biting or chewing. A lot of autistics will chew the inside of their mouth. Maybe licking certain textures. Smelling. I smell a lot of things. I'll smell certain flowers I love. Sometimes I'll smell the top of Debbie's head. Other examples could be touching objects with your tongue, chomping your teeth, or grinding your teeth. Okay, I stim, but is it healthy to stim, or should I be concerned? Sometimes, honestly, stimming can be disruptive and harmful. Shouting out words during a class, for example, or loudly tapping and distracting other people during a meeting or a class or a presentation. Banging your head on a hard object like a wall or desk over and over is harmful. Scratching your skin too hard, or maybe pulling your hair, that could lead to bald spots, which might affect your self-esteem. So these are examples of ways that stimming could be unproductive and harmful. There are methods to remove these types of stims and replace them with different, less harmful types. I'm not going to dive into any of those in this video. I'll save it for another video. So now that we know stimming can be harmful or disruptive, I'd like to point out that it usually is not. Stimming is generally a healthy bodily reaction. Most of the time, stimming is awesome. For most people, especially autistics and ADHDers, stimming is important because it helps manage stress. It helps reduce anxiety. It helps us handle big feelings and difficult emotions. Helps us with focus and handling the feeling of being overwhelmed. If I didn't stim, I'd feel unbalanced and get irritable. I'd also probably explode. I like stimming, and I'm glad that I do it. So what are ways that you stim? Drop them in the comments. Also, if you have any other questions about stimming, drop those in the comments as well. Thanks for being here, and keep on stimming. After I'm done recording, I'm gonna eat probably 3 handfuls of these. Okay, all right. Because this can trigger stress and diarrhea.